Yeah, I'll show you how to get it, but you have to be willing to do the work. The Syndicate, it's a motherfucking movement.
This is the Syndicate.
You ain't gotta be perfect, long as you down to put the work in. If when it comes to the bullshit you allergic, well, you just might be my kind of person. Welcome to the Syndicate, where real estate wholesaling is what the business is. Ain't gotta talk about it when you out here living it, so if you out here getting it, then welcome to the Syndicate. Welcome to the Syndicate. Welcome to the Syndicate.
Wholesaling Syndicate Podcast. Very excited to have Jeff Smith with us today. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of
Good
course,
to see you
man.
again.
Same here, man. Yeah, I always like talking with you and think we're aligned in a lot of ways. So yeah, definitely loved all the information you gave at the last event you spoke at. And I know a bunch of people got a lot of value. So I'm sure we'll get a lot of value here again today. So for anyone who doesn't know you yet, do you want to give us a quick intro and bio about who Jeff Smith is?
Yeah, I guess. I was in special operations in the Army. I was in the corporate world for 18 years, financial services. Owned a gym for 12 years that I started and founded and sold. I've done business consulting and mentoring for the last 8 years. And I run a mastermind for men called the Tactical Empire that's focused on being better husbands, better fathers, and making a fuckload of money.
I like it.
Through real estate investing. So
yeah.
That's why I'm here.
That's badass, man. Perfect, man. So, and I know you guys do a lot of RVing. Are you in the RV now? Are you guys traveling right now?
No, we are going full time in the RV in the next 2 months. So we're about 60 days out from leaving and selling all of our stuff. So we're purging everything, and this has been quite a transition. I'm also doing a self-storage rehab that I have to finish the project before we pull out of town. So April 15th-ish.
Nice. That's super exciting. You guys, a little nerve-wracking? Are you excited? Or
I think we're very excited. It's definitely nerve-wracking. Certainly. We've got 4 kids under 11 years old and a big ass dog. It's going to be quite a transition for us for sure, to all cram in an RV and travel around the country, but we're going to make the best of it and have a bunch of experiences. And I think there's no better time with our kids' ages to go take advantage of it.
I love that. Yeah, man, it's definitely, we haven't done it yet. We've talked about it a bunch, but it looks awesome, man. I feel like it's like absolute freedom, just being able to go wherever you want and not be tied down.
We've been RVing for about 4 years now, and we've really enjoyed it. We've never done more than like a month and a half on the road, so this will be our first stint of like full timing it. But we just thought it was a great opportunity. It's a fun way to travel and see the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So how did you make the transition? So how did you first get into real estate? And then what kind of walk us through that and what that looked like?
Yeah. I bought my first apartment. It was a 7-unit apartment in 2006. And then I owned that and a couple single family homes. Nothing earth shattering. I didn't go into it like real gung ho. I was working a corporate job and I just was stacking real estate on the outside because I really just never believed in the system of like 401ks and conventional qualified programs. I wasn't wanting to put my money in those. Mm-hmm. So I started buying these assets periodically throughout my career. I bought those original properties in Illinois and I kept them from 2006 to 2013. We moved to Houston in 2008. So I lived out of state as a landlord for, I guess, 5 years, and before we sold them. And then at the time I took 5 years off of real estate investing, and then I hopped back in 2018 and ended up burrowing into about 50 properties, doing a syndication on another 30 plus properties down in Corpus Christi. And so my wife and I currently own I think we own 36 right now. I just sold a handful of them because we bought this self-storage. We bought a 128 unit storage facility that we're doing a rehab on to build our track record there to get with lenders. I've got some money guys that are chomping at the bit for me to have a track record at doing rehabs on self-storage. And so we're doing that right now. And then I'm looking at moving into some other metro areas for long-term single-family home buying outside of Texas next. So I'm looking at some other markets to go pretty deep in and grab 50 or so properties just as long-term holds.
That's awesome, man. So walk us through, I know we were talking about that at the event last time, so I definitely want to hear how that's going. How's everything going with the storage unit rehab, and how's that deal working out?
Man, that deal has been a quagmire. We bought the deal, or I bought it back in, I think June with two partners. And myself and one guy had a different vision for it, I feel like. Thought it was going to be an easy project, and it ended up dragging its feet. The other partner wanted to do a syndication and sell off 60% of the shares. But really the legal paperwork and the PPM and all the other things never really took shape, because like that was on kind of the other partner to do. If he wanted to go in that direction, we were okay with it. But just recently we have decided to pivot, and we bought that partner out, resold the asset to a new LLC that's ours, me and the original other partner. So there's only 50-50 now. And we're doing a capital raise right now of $800,000 to do that rehab. And that literally should start in a week, probably. Wow. But we're bringing in commercial contractors to take care of it. The job's going to be fast and done. I mean, it should be 6 to 8 weeks, and then lease up starts. So
why is because I know we hear a lot of buzz about it. I know like literally next to nothing about storage units. Why are they an attractive investment opportunity or option that people like to look at, or what made you decide to go that route?
I just think it's a different asset class that appeals to certain people. Maybe for me, I like it because, I mean, if you just think about it from scale standpoint, like you own an apartment complex, right? You've got all the mechanicals that go into each and every unit. You've got people in each and every unit, and all the things that come of it. So like for me, I cut my teeth, and most of my portfolio, my entire life has been in long-term, like single family, small multi-units, right? And so you make a couple $100 each unit a month in net profit on those, somewhere between $200 and $600 a month per door, basically, is usually the numbers once you get those things leveraged and settled with a renter in there and a tenant in there, and you allocate money for capital reserves and also management. So they're not hugely sexy to the outside. So you look at them and you're like, okay, I make $200 to $600. And then you look at a storage unit that sits on one plot of land. It has no toilets, no mechanicals, no nothing. And you're looking at the net profit of, in our case, I don't know what it'll be per unit once we're done, but let's call it $50. Let's say it's $50 a door, and we own 128 doors, but we've got no toilets, no mechanicals, no 2 o'clock calls in the morning, and things like that. And so tenants are a different issue. The agreements and the contracts and the evictions are just a different animal. And you can set them up so that they're kind of turnkey and touchless. You only need one person to go there if credit cards end up bouncing or locking out. And so then you just slap a lock on the facility or their door, and they've got to contact us to get it unlocked or change their credit card. So it's a little bit lower maintenance. Now, I will tell you that the returns are not like astronomical. I mean, you have to get into some big assets to get like big NOI or net operating income. And so like you do have to stack them up, but the headaches that come with them, I think, are kind of worth the risk. If you've been in residential rentals for a long time, you know everything that comes along with that. I mean, I've got stories for days in that market because I deal with affordable housing for the most part. So like entry-level homes. And so what comes along with that is, I mean, we have Section 8 properties. We've got all kinds of stuff like that. And so, I mean, in the probably 12 years, 10 years that I've owned real estate, we've seen a lot of different things happen. So.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. So less headaches and, more scalability.
Well, I think there's also, there's an aspect of like running a business, which I have experience doing as well. Like, cause I like to teach people that like, if you treat your single family rentals like they're a business, they'll be more valuable for you over time. And so like, I think a lot of people come in as hobbyists and they try to buy a couple houses and they don't really manage them well or like businesses. Now, whereas a storage unit, you can clearly take a look at the levers that you can pull to get it acquirable, if you will. So like if you go in and you buy something for $1 million, then I'm looking at all the different levers we can pull from an expense standpoint. Like, can we get it on solar? Can we automate the gates? Can we eliminate labor costs? Because every dollar that you can save goes straight to the net operating income, which in the commercial space is exponential multiple on the way out. So if you find these storage facilities that are operated by people and they have a lot of like waste in them or fat in the expenses that are unnecessary, you can go in as a business owner and optimize those and make that asset a much more valuable asset without necessarily the spend that you have to outlay in most cases. Yeah,
no, that makes a lot of sense. So it looks like we got a question. And if anybody has questions, make sure to drop them. We'll get them answered. But that's a good one to ask now. So some guy on YouTube, he said, what's the most damage a tenant has done to one of your residential properties?
I had a tenant that we didn't go into the unit for probably 6 months. It was a house. And they had large dogs and they locked them in the house and they pissed all over the house so substantially that it structurally damaged the home. Wow. And we had to tear up all the flooring in the house, jack up the house, put in it rotted the floor joists all the way through so that they were cracked and completely broken. So the house was no longer like even structurally sound. And so I would say that's probably the most damage an actual tenant has done. We've seen a lot of different things, concrete poured down the toilet, all kinds of shit. I mean, it can get kind of nasty sometimes, but yeah, that was probably the worst one that we had. And we were able to, fortunately, that property was in a place called Texas City, Texas, and it's a lot of pier and beam homes. And that's what it was. It was a pier and beam home. So we were able to come in from the sides and get underneath of it. I mean, a slab home would not have been damaged like that, but it was on joists. So they rotted all the way through.
Wow.
So that was a tough one because the urine smell was difficult to get out even after we like gutted the whole place down to the studs and put new floor joists in and everything else. It was still very strong.
That's crazy. So they just must not have let the dogs out at all, I guess.
I know.
That's crazy.
It was like they're paying rent for the dogs, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. That's nuts. But no, it's a great question. But yeah, if anybody else has any more, just keep them coming. So I know I met a few people from your Tactical Empire, some like great guys, love the group. What would you advise for people that are new? They want to get into real estate. What do you think the best path for them to get started with real estate investing is?
It really depends. It really depends on what your strategy is and then how much money you have. I think the most common thing that people run into is underestimating how much money they'll need to go full-time into real estate. Because you need active income and then you need passive income. And so guys that are trying to like leave their W-2 job and they want to bridge the gap with like long-term rentals, it's going to be that's a tough road to hoe because like you've got to get a lot of long-term rentals to make it make sense. But as long as that's why I like teaching like vertical integration, meaning like if you want to go full time in real estate, that's great. Like get with Ky and have him teach you how to start wholesaling because that's an active income role. And you can make money actively by doing that while you build your portfolio. And it keeps you in the real estate space. So you can do acquisitions and things like that and then build your portfolio that way. Or go be a realtor or like there's a variety of different things to do based on what your skill set is, but having an active income is absolutely necessary. And so like when you're like talking about breaking in and what you're going to do, first of all, I would analyze like how much time you have to allocate, because you either have time, money, or knowledge, right? And those are the three things brought to every deal. And so you can participate in a deal if you have any of those items, right? So if you're the money man that has a great job that's W-2 that you like, then you should look to participate passively somehow, or JV with some operator where you can go in and get 50-50 properties and you just feed them the cash to buy them, and then they manage the property because they've got time and they've got knowledge and you have the money. So it's a beautiful JV arrangement there. It's just, that's the most vital thing I can tell you, because I've got people that are in my group, even that are in their 20s, young 30s. They want to get out of their day job or the rat race. And like, that is the biggest thing. Like, you can't burn the boats and not have any active income, because if you run out of cash in this game, you will get suffocated. So that's the number one thing to understand. You don't need a W-2 job to buy houses and to build a portfolio. That's another common misconception with new people coming in, because they think about financing things conventionally, and that's not how you actually build a portfolio. I mean, that's how you get your first 5 or 10, but you can't have more than 10 mortgages on your personal credit. So if you want to go beyond that and build an actual substantial portfolio, you are going to use other lending products that don't necessarily require a day job.
Right. That makes sense. I know you kind of touched on a bit before the infinite banking. What are some of the, can you kind of dive into what infinite banking is and any other options when someone maybe hits that 5 or 10?
Yeah, man. Infinite banking is the most incredible financial tool I have ever come up against. They don't really teach it. It's high early cash value life insurance is what it is. And so I call it like a 401k for entrepreneurs. Ultimately, it's a savings account that you're creating that's a life insurance product, and it needs to be written very, very specifically, and it has to be written through just a couple companies, through the right people. You can't go like to your normal down the street Northwestern Mutual person and get the right type of policy written. So that's why everyone has a dirty taste in their mouth about them, because like those are loaded with high commissions and high fees and things like that. So like the policies that we get are 90% cash value right off the bat, meaning like if you put $100,000 in there, you've got $90,000 available the next day in your bank, and it's earning a blended rate of dividends and interest to accumulate about a 6.25% rate of return, which isn't astounding. But if you talk about that being your savings account, it kicks the shit out of a regular savings account in a normal market. Right. Now, like we've got online savings accounts right now because of the economy for like 5%, but like in a regular market, those were like 0.8%, like 4 years ago. So 6.5%. The beauty of it is once you put it in there, it's uninterrupted compounding interest forever, because the way that you work the system is you put money in there and then you can take a loan against that product, right? So if you have $100,000 in cash value, you can pull out a $100,000 loan if that cash value is there, right? The loan payback is going to be less than what you're earning over here. So there's a positive arbitrage in that situation. That's why it's called infinite banking, because you make 0.5% or 1% on your money, even when it's lended out. So you can go get a $100,000 loan. You can go buy a $500,000 asset, use the asset to pay back your life insurance, and then you have the asset and your life insurance again. And that's just the simplistic way to kind of look at it. And once you start building the bank and cycling it, you really understand the power of how it can be utilized to buy a lot of assets. Because the interesting thing about it is that once you pull that loan, this is a way to eliminate debt too. If you've got credit card debt or something like that, unsecured debt, don't put it off until you pay off your debt. Open these policies first Like, let's say you've got $20,000 worth of credit card debt and you've got $20,000 sitting in the bank account, in the savings account. And you're like, should I use that money to pay it off? No, because if you take that money from your savings account and you pay Chase Bank with it, you're going to use it one time and it's gone. So what we're teaching here is the cyclical rate of money. You want to try to use your fractional reserve account essentially, and you want your money to work for you multiple times. So if you take that $20,000 and you put it in a policy first, it's going to sit over here and earn 6.5%. In that policy, you're going to take a loan against it for $20,000. You're going to go take the loan and you're going to pay Chase Bank. You're going to eliminate your 23% interest there. And then you're going to start paying back your life insurance policy, but there's no minimum payment. There's no terms to the payment. It's just going to be over here kind of earning 5.5% interest, but you're over here earning 6.25. So there's an arbitrage, a positive arbitrage in your direction of 0.75 points in that situation. And as you pay it back, let's say you pay $2,000 a month. So the $2,000 a month that you put back in your life insurance, now you owe 18 on your debt, but that 2,000 is earning the full 6.25%. And like you're only earning 0.75% on the 18,000. It gets confusing when you talk a bunch of numbers, but like it's very, very powerful over time. And you can use it in very small increments. Like let's say you want to create a vacation fund for like $5,000 a year. You can start there. Or you can, over time, it will build and build and build. The most powerful thing in the world is uninterrupted compounding interest. And with these particular products, when you put the money in there today, it's going to earn that 6% for as long as you're alive.
That's crazy. So is there are there any cons to it? I mean, is there any like things people should be aware of, or there's like only certain, I know you said there's certain ones, like how do they find the right ones?
Well, you can send me a message. I can plug you in with some agents that we're tied with. There's like, you need to check the track record of the company. Like we use a couple different people. I've got policies with Lafayette Life and then, Mass Mutual. And then, I'm trying to think of the third. There's another company. If you look up their track record, they've all been around more than 150 years and they've all paid dividends every single year of those 150 years without fail. And so, I mean, you can send me a message at Real Jeff Smith on Instagram. I'll plug you in with agents that they're not going to just sell you something or ask for your money. It's a process. You have to go through, you have to get medical work done. And by that, I mean, they come do blood tests at your house and it takes 15 minutes. Is there a floor to start? No. No, there's not. You can talk about your budget and they'll tell you how you could do it. But I mean, you can just start with $500 a month or $1,000 a year, however you want to do it. So there's not really a floor to start. The biggest thing is starting now and then making sure that you're healthy enough to get it. Because like some of these products you're not eligible for if you've had cancer or something like that, right? So you want to get them started earlier. And the way that you can do it advantageously is like you can start these policies, high early cash value policies. They're whole life policies is what they are. And so you can start them. And if you say, hey, I'm going to earn a lot more money in the next 5 years, but right now I only have this amount of money, then you just start your whole life policy and then you buy term convertible right then. And you pay for term convertible until you start earning more. And then you start converting more and more into that whole life and you don't have to retest medical. So you get better rates and you get like the earning potential on them is better. So like the older you are, the worse medical history you have, you're going to earn less, right? Because you're of higher risk to the underwriters. Can you do it with your kids? Yes. There is not an age floor. No, there's not. Yes, we buy them on our kids. Ultimately, if you want to set up like an impenetrable estate plan, that's how you do it. You set it up so that every time a kid is born in your family, a policy is bought on them to refund the bank. And then you set up like family value statements, like I am the guy who built this. Ed Milet's, I am the one, right? Like I created generational wealth for our family. Then I can dictate how that money goes out, because money doesn't live past 2 generations of families generally. Historically, that's the deal. With these policies, you can set it up so it's impenetrable, meaning like the estate buys a policy on my great grandkid's kid that was just birthed, right? And then based on our family's value statement, it says anybody in the family can draw out X amount of money out of this bank for these uses: to open a business, to go to college, to buy a house, upon getting married, whatever you decide, whatever you dictate. It's your family's values, whatever you decide. And then when you buy that policy at birth, what it does is it secures the estate's money. The Smith family bank is going to be repaid upon that child's death. So if that child, it sounds morbid when I talk through it, but it's not, if you understand it. So I bought that policy. It probably cost $10,000, right? They probably have access to $1 million when they get older. They can draw $1 million out of it on cash or whatever we dictate, right? If they don't ever pay a penny back from it, the bank gets refilled when they die.
Okay.
So if they go off and become some crackhead in Mexico and try to steal all the family's money, like, and never pay it back, it gets paid back eventually, no matter what. And that's how you create the generational aspect of it that lasts beyond those 2 generations.
Okay. So like when you take it out for the deal, so sounds like there's not like a certain repayment schedule that has to be repaid at a certain time. So it's just
that's the other beauty about it. Like every single burr or house flipper should be using these, because you're essentially running your own line of credit over time. And so there's also ways to arbitrage. Like a buddy of mine, who's a business partner of mine as well, he's throwing a couple $100,000 in on our storage deal that we're doing, because we're raising $800,000. We're paying 15% back, 15% returns, and it's a 6 to 9 month note we're writing. So they're going to get 15% at month 6 return. So if you put $100,000 in there, he's going to get $15,000 in 6 months back. So if you have these policies built, you can become a lender, right? And all you have to do is outpace that 5.5%. So he's going to give us $100,000, and he's going to make 15% in 6 months on that money. And then he can go back and pay the $100,000 back and keep the $15,000 that he made in interest. I mean, he should pay back a little bit of it, because there is some interest accrued on 5%, but that's amortized over a whole year. So he'd have like $2,500 of interest. So he'd walk away with $12,500 for doing nothing. That's just a paper deal. And you can do that and cycle it over and over again. So like, as this thing grows, you can see how the power of like the flywheel starts to move, right?
Yeah, that's super exciting. And you said that the reason it's not more well known, you said just because the traditional people can't sell it. So, or I guess not well known, like, it's kind of a bad rep.
I mean, I'm not trying to put people on blast, but like Dave Ramsey shits on him all the time. And like, because if you go to somewhere like your conventional Northwestern Mutual or something like that, I don't want to be sued for libel or something, but like the policies are written very front end loaded, and their commissions are very high. So like maybe you open a $10,000 policy, and in that first year, the reason the cash value is low, the way they wrote it, is because they may take an $8,000 commission on your $10,000 one in the very first year. And so if you write these policies correctly, the commission is dripped over time, so it's not very sexy for the agent to put them out and produce them.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the companies that do them on scale, so they sell a lot of those. So they don't mind doing it because it spreads their commission out over a 10-year period.
Okay.
And so,
that's really cool.
but most people don't know about them, because you can use them like literally. I think the reason that more people don't know about them is because I don't know that we would have a workforce. Because if you have any financial education and you can build this bank, you don't need to work, because there's opportunities to put your money to work for you. So like, imagine this is why I don't like qualified programs. So like, everybody's all excited when they've got $400,000 in their 401k because it's going to be X at 59 and a half or 64 years old when they can finally draw it. This, if you can put $400,000 in this fucking thing in your 20s, you can live on the interest, because if you put it to work, like I'm talking about, you go find storage deals where you can make $12,000 in 6 months and not do anything with $100,000. So extrapolate that times 4, you could make $50,000 in 6 months. If you used all your $400,000 and loaned it to me, I would give you $48,000 net back, right? So like 48 times 48, if you did that twice in a year, you made $96,000, and you just used your money. No work, just money, and you had saved up $400,000. So like, the reason that I call these, this is another aspect of them, and the reason that I call them like the 401k for entrepreneurs is because if you build this up, it builds and builds and builds over time. So most of us aren't really like interested in retiring, but if you're interested in like doing things later in your life, the cash value of these is so substantial by the time you're like 75 years old that you literally could pull out, like, let's say your policy alone is earning like $600,000 interest a year by the time you're 78 years old. Okay. You could pull out $400,000 a year, never touch kind of the nest egg, because it would still be growing at a rate of $200,000 a year. And you never have to pay it back. You could pull out $400,000 a year until you're 96 years old and then just die, and you're never going to outpace your death benefit. So you're building a retirement plan for yourself,
right?
Too.
Yeah, no, that's super cool.
People use these kind of for assisted living homes and shit like that as instead, because that shit's expensive. It's like 10 or 20 grand a month. It can be. And so wild. Like, if you have the ability to pull out $200,000 a year, which these, if you start them early enough and you put money into them, a decent amount of money into them, you will easily be able to do that. And then you're never going to have to look around for how you afford your care and shit like that. So like there's a lot of benefits to them. And the other thing, because I don't want the audience to confuse what I'm saying, your cash value is never going to outpace or even get close to your death benefit. And that's why this is available to you. So if I say you can pull $100,000 cash value, that's on a death benefit of like $1 million. So if I pull out $100,000 on my my $1 million death benefit, and I never pay it back, I die, they pay back the $100,000 loan plus interest to the company. They pay themselves first, and then they come to my wife and they're like, "Here's what's left over. It's it's $960,000, whatever, $850,000, and that's the portion of the death benefit that goes to you." So that's why they can do it from an underwriting standpoint, because they get paid no matter what.
Right.
And so like, because people think this is like snake oil shit when I first tell it to them, because they're like, that sounds good to be true. Actually look at it and you understand the math of what goes into it. They're underwriting, they're only loaning you a fraction of what you have into the policy. Now they're taking if I say there's 90% cash value available into my policies, it's because they're really weighted. So a 90% cash value policy is not going to have a super high upside of a death benefit. So like if I want 90% cash value, I'm probably going to have a very small death benefit. It's not going to be 10x. So that $100,000 policy might be a $200,000 death benefit. Meaning, so if you stay with me here, if they pay back the $100,000 loan, they only owe my wife like $75,000 after they take care of the interest, right? So it's not some astronomical $20 million death benefit that they're coming off of, because we balance our portfolio and our policies though to allow us to like have the death benefit that we need, of course, but then we lean towards the very early high cash value, because we're using the money and cycling it through deals like we're talking about here to make us money now.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I didn't know any of that. So that's super valuable for me. I'm sure it is for everybody else too.
If you have more questions on it, we have a ton of content. We've got a podcast as well called The Tactical Empire. My partner and I kind of specialized in infinite banking into real estate investing. And so we've got a lot of like tutorials and teaching on that stuff. So it's a very complicated thing. If you don't know anything about it, go read What Would Billionaires Do? It was originally What Would the Rockefellers Do? Mm-hmm. And very easy read, like $2 to buy it. I think it's on Amazon. But if you shoot me a message, I'll send you a copy of it. I've got electronic copies and shit like that I can send out. So start digging in. But this process, if you use infinite banking into asset accumulation, you don't have to buy real estate even. If you're buying businesses, if you're buying other assets, like you can become financially free in 2 to 7 years is what we teach. Based on where you're starting and how much money you have and what your system looks like and how much horsepower you have behind you as far as an income. But you literally can start from zero and be in a completely different stratosphere in 5 to 7 years for sure. 2 years for big income earners. Easy.
Wow. Yeah, it's huge. So I can tell just hearing you talk about it, you light up, very passionate about it. Where does that come from? Like, it sounds like, when you talk about generational wealth and helping other people get there too, and taking control of their finances.
Well, I mean, like I said, I run a men's group about making men wealthy. And I think it's important to me that we have strong fathers and leaders in the community. For me, I'm just, like I said, I have a financial services background. I think money is simply a utility to make change and impact our communities in positive ways. And the more people I can help become financially free, most of the people that run with me share similar values to me. So I'm pretty confident that they're going to go out and make positive impacts on the world with making them wealthy and freeing them up. If I can just teach more people these concepts that, I mean, I've done business mentoring for years, and entrepreneurs are some of the hardest working, like, kind-hearted people in the world. We just don't have a lot of financial education out there. And it's a bitch, man, honestly, because it pains me to see people deal with the stress, bring it into their marriage, bring it into them raising their kids. And it's just unnecessary, because if you start these concepts and just push on them and don't deviate, like, you can change your entire life to whatever you want it to be. Now, I'm not talking like Jeff Bezos yachts and shit like that. That's not for everybody. But like, if you're out there making $70,000, would an extra 100 put you in a different mindset if you were making 170 in 3 years and we did it like, and we're able to work your way out of your job or something that was causing you stress? Really, freedom's the name of my game, man. Autonomy. And I think that at our core, that's what human beings, males especially, desire more than anything, is autonomy.
100%.
And I mean, I learned that after getting out of the military and transitioning out of the military and going into a corporate job and doing the fucking slacks and khakis and cubicles and bullshit and being miserable. And for me, like, I think it's important to help the people that are willing to listen to this stuff, because I see how impactful it can be. I just told you I'm selling everything that we fucking own, and we're going RVing for the next 3 years. I'm going to try to take my kids to 49 states. I figured out a way to get all of our shit to Alaska and never have to go into Canada, which is one thing that took me a while to figure out. But I'm 44 years old and we're doing all this. And so, like, my partner in the Tactical Empire is 35 years old. I've mentored him for 5 years. When he was 29 years old, I told him that, like, if he listened to me, we would change his life in his 30s, and then his 40s would be unconceivable for him. And he followed the plan. He's got $5.5 million of real estate. His Airbnbs are doing like $80K a month right now. And he's got like $800,000 in cash value life insurance available. And so, like, they're like, don't quote me on all those numbers, but they're pretty damn close. and he's doing whatever he wants to do, and he's 35. So I mean, you know how real estate is. It's unstoppable if you just stay in the game. So 15 years from now, that $5.5 million is going to be what? 15, maybe, like probably. And so like at this point, he can throttle it back and decide, hey, this is enough for us. Like, we're good. We make enough money. Like, I want to spend all the time with my kids. And he has choice to focus on whatever he wants. And like, that is the gift I want to give everybody more than anything. And I think that just conventional society has us fooled into like going different directions and like being busy all the time and doing all that shit. And I think the biggest thing that people need to understand is most people walk around don't knowing what the fuck they want ever. They just do what they're told, and they go to their job because it's what they were supposed to do, or what their mom told them to do, or what their professor told them to do at school. And they go on to the next thing, and they never really take the time to figure themselves out and decide what they want for themselves. And so if there's any reason I want to be teaching this stuff, it's to give the gift of like, you have options. Like, question everything. That's really
I love that.
My position.
I feel like that's probably a big reason a lot of people don't pursue it, is they just don't feel like it's possible, or they don't feel like they have options.
That pisses me off though, because like there's nothing special about anybody. I mean, it's just the people that have more than other people, or are at a different point than other people. They deal with all the same shit. They had all the same fears. They just started doing it in spite of the fears that they had. And like, I don't know. That's another thing that I think just is frustrating. I like empowering people to reach their potential and having them think outside the box. 99% of the people I talk to, you ask them what their goals are, and they tell you these little tiny fucking goals. And like, they have no idea what their capabilities are, and like stretching and 5Xing or 10Xing their actual goal and seeing where they can get to is a tremendous exercise for everybody. And people need more confidence in that. And they need to be lifelong learners and students of the game, and not get so down on themselves when they fail. Cause fuck man, like I just wrote a long ass post in our inner circle group, and it was about how like my week has been insane with ups and downs. I have taken the biggest fucking beatings, and I have been on the highest of mountains, like 5 minutes later this week, like 37 different times. And like, that's just the way it goes. Like,
yeah. Love that.
I live in a small community of useful people. I love that. My Colorado, I'm with you.
Yeah. For other people,
I always say I want to disappear, but I don't know that disappearing is my highest and best use, but I may someday.
Yeah. I debate it probably at least once or twice a week, just unplugging and disappearing. Sounds nice. But
absolutely.
That's awesome. It's a good goal.
But I mean, the reality of it is like, you have to figure out what you want, and then you just reverse engineer it from there. Like, you have to understand where we're at now. Okay, we want X, Y, and Z. Where are we at now? And that, like, so we do an exercise real fast. It's called your bare ass minimum. So you go through like your personal finances, and you're like, what is our bare minimum? Like, if we lost all income streams today, what would be what we absolutely need to keep the lights on, to keep the house, feed our family, no extra shit. But we don't eliminate like car notes and stuff like that. If you've got them, you got them. You are where you are, right? And so like you establish that bare minimum, and like that's where we start from to achieve financial freedom. So we work to that bare ass minimum, and like, let's call it $5,000 a month or whatever, $10,000 a month. Like that's our first like waypoint that we're trying to target. And then from there we build
passively.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And we're trying to generate that money through assets that we own. And then from there you move on to the next step in the road, which is like your bare minimum plus your lifestyle. Right. And then from there, that's step 2. And then you move on to your lifestyle plus your dream lifestyle. Maybe that's like more vacations, more car notes, or whatever the fuck you want. Right. Like, it's very, very specific. And then there's like 10-year goal, which is like, this is everything I've ever wanted, list it out. How much is it for a monthly nut? That's an interesting exercise. And we've had all our guys go through it. Like, you can name every fucking thing you want and then like break it down. And like, it's probably not very much money, to be honest. Most people, like, because like even a Lamborghini note, like you go buy a new Lambo and it's like $3,500 a month, right? If you finance it. And so I'm not a car guy, so that's like not my thing. So don't quote me on it, but it's pretty close. And insurance is another $1,500, right? So you could have a Lambo for under $5,000 a month. So if you talk about like dream, like it's hard to get there. That's what I'm saying. These exercises conceptually to stretch, like, can you spend $1 million a month somehow? Like most people don't even want to, if you think about that, right? So like, so then if you track backwards from like where you want to go, like this is our absolute dream. How much is it? $40,000 a month or something like that. Most normal people, that's where they'll be at. And then like maybe they can stretch it to 60 by the time they get there because of Parkinson's law. Like it will fill, the vacuum will be filled by other shit. And, but the reality is you're not as far away from like absolute like dream lifestyle as you think you are. And then it's a matter of like gauging the return on investment and stuff like that. Recently, I've been having a lot of conversations with people about that own a bunch of cars, and they're like, a buddy of mine has a toy box down in Tampa or Miami or something, down South Florida, Fort Lauderdale. That's where it's at. It's just a big warehouse building. He's got like 40 cars in it. He has to go there like periodically and drive all the cars to like run them. And he's like sick of it. So he's like selling off the cars. And so like, you just, I don't know. I think that like, I don't like stuff. So for me, I'm not chasing all that shit, which has allowed us to do whatever we want all the time. Right. And so I think that that's been beneficial because my wife's kind of the same way I am. We're into experiences. We spend a bunch of money on traveling and doing whatever we want, but we don't spend a bunch of money on like shit that is flashy, if you will. So
I think that's like, it goes back to like what you said, just knowing what you want. Like I figure a lot of people, they do things, it might not even be because they want it, it's because they think, you know, they'll get more likes, or it's because what, you know, even the other way, not like the job, it could be like, oh, I want to buy this thing because other people think it's cool, but never stop to ask what they actually want.
100%, man.
But I love it, man. So what are some of the lessons, or what are some of the things that you're able to apply with your career in the special forces, like to business or to your entrepreneurship?
Ultimately, I think extreme accountability and like accepting responsibility for every single thing. If you can, and also not ever presenting a problem without a solution. Like I think I'm a highly kinetic problem solver. Like I move at a very fast rate when it comes to things like that. And I don't have a lot of patience for problems and people to whine about them. And like, you are where you are at any moment in time. So I think our biggest lessons from the military and special operations are just like being able to deal with tremendous amounts of adversity and suck, if you will. 'Cause I mean, like, and then also the other lessons that one thing that I think was one of my best attributes is being able to move on very quickly. So like, if that was you, like today is today, yesterday is yesterday. And I think that's a quality that people need to train in themselves. Like fucking, you can't get stuck in the past and the identities of who you are. Like when I got out of the military, I think that kind of, I had some dark periods of time, but I think that pulled me out more than anything was that mindset of like, that's not who I am anymore. So like, who am I going to become? Like, I'm a real estate investor. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm all this other shit. And like special operations is just something I did. It's just a part of me. Like the people that have problems with it are defined by those characteristics. It's kind of like being an athlete and that's what you work for your whole life. And like, then it's taken away from you and you fucking don't know what to do with yourself. Being able to move forward quickly has allowed me to kind of take losses and then not worry about it. Like it doesn't impact me. And so, and also dealing with like mortality. of we have a short amount of time. I think people spend way too much time wasting time on like, you want to go out and get your dream life, and they're waiting on like this 5-year plan. Like I talk to people still that are like, man, I got 6 more years at this company and then I'll get this. And I'm like, what the fuck are you getting in 6 years? You know how long 6 years is?
Yeah.
Like you could be dead in 6 years for sure.
Right.
And so like I think people really, really get stuck with the kind of golden handcuffs and like these small amounts of money. Like they're staying around for a $2,500 pension that they're going to draw in 10 years or something. And the reality of it is like, you can go out and get that $2,500 in like 6 months.
Right.
And now you have to fill in the gap of your active income if you leave something like that. But like, you have to take advantage of every moment that you have here, because life is very short, and you're not going to achieve what you want to do. And if you don't just get up and take action every day. And so like, I don't know, the mortality side of things, it resonates with me deeply, because I lost a bunch of teammates and shit in different combat scenarios. And so like, I mean, those guys were 20 years old, 25 years old. And so you think about, they didn't even get a chance to start what we were doing. Right. And so for me, time is of the essence as far as like continuing to take action and move forward and not wasting it.
Yeah.
So I would say those are my biggest lessons: accountability, being able to fail fast, and then like taking advantage of each and every moment.
I love that. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing. So say somebody, like we were talking about before, like entrepreneurs, they're not very financially educated. I know I'm not. What steps would you recommend for them to start learning to be better financially and starting to learn some of those principles?
Oh man. From a business standpoint or a personal standpoint?
I guess both. I don't know. Either one. You want to, whatever one you want to touch on.
Business, I think like one of the best books you can read is like Profit First by Mike McAllowitz. Just understanding how to pay yourself first and to ensure that you like bake in that profit to what you're doing. I think that's even me, like for years running businesses, I was like what they refer to as a top line accountant, meaning like there's this much money in the fucking checking account, go. Like, let's spend it. Like you think you've got this money that you can spend on other things, and then the tax bill comes or something else comes and you're like, oh, fuck. That's why there was that much money in there. And so Profit First is definitely a good one for small to mid-sized business owners for sure. But as far as like, I like T. Harv Eker's stuff. He has a ton. I've learned a tremendous amount from him. He has a ton of financial education out there. He utilizes sweep accounts, which is one thing that I'm very passionate about. Is it's kind of the same concept to pay yourself first, but you're making sure that you take in your money, $1,000 or whatever, and you move a couple $100 into each of these buckets so that you're always saving for different purposes. Becoming a good saver is something that's super, super important. Like, I think he's got a financial test on there of what your money type is. And like, I'm an amasser, meaning I could get a whole bunch of money together at any point in time, but then I'm also like a high financial risk guy. So I'll get a bunch of money together and then I'll go chips in on something. Yeah. My wife is not like that. So we're a good balance. But T. Harv Eker stuff is great. And then first, and like I said, read What Would the Rockefellers Do? That'll teach you about overfunded whole life insurance. Besides that, man, just podcasts, anything like that. You just got to be learning, constant student, because I mean, everything's changing. That's one thing I'm keeping my finger on the pulse of, is like, what is happening with the US dollar and shit like that. I mean, we could talk for another hour about that, so I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but like, I think financial education is important more than ever right now, because if you're an American, like, you have to be aware of like what's happening with the dollar and like what is the next like thing to happen. What's happening with this inflation? What happens if BRICS becomes the worldwide currency? It's a fucking big deal. And so like, how do you insure yourself or insulate yourself from like catastrophic loss at that point? And I think it's to be invested in specific assets that are going to reset. If you ask me my opinion on that, like if you were worried about the dollar going to shit, which I think all signs kind of point to like, that's where we're headed. I don't know what's going to happen, but maybe it'll come raging back. But for me, I like insurance policies for myself. And what I see that as being like, you need to have investments in real assets, meaning businesses, real estate, like stocks and bonds are a little risky. I mean, I don't know. Those are going to move with the currency, but they'll be propped up by politicians and government, I'm sure. So it's important to kind of understand these things so that as you come up, you don't get the rug pulled out from under you before you can get to a certain point where you're kind of like above this shit. And I don't even know what that line would be at this point, probably $50 million. So none of us are there.
No, that's huge, man. Awesome, guys. So yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on. What's the best way? I know you mentioned it before, but do you want to mention your podcast again and how people can get in touch with you on social media?
Yeah, man. You can get a hold of me on IG. Real Jeff Smith is my handle. And then we run a Facebook group called the Tactical Empire Community. It's a free group on Facebook. Go in there. You can join. You can ask any questions about any of this stuff. $20,000 to invest. I would start a high early cash value policy for sure. Definitely. But you could definitely start one with $20,000. That'd be easy. You could overfund it first year and then put $2,000 a year into it after that or something. And you'd have $18,000 available the first year immediately to use and start cycling through this process that I'm talking about. We teach a little bit more about it and talk a little bit more about it in the Tactical Empire for sure. So hop in over there, ask any questions you want. But yeah, man, they can reach me at Instagram's a great way to message me or just hop in that community and I'm active in there all the time.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everybody for listening. If you guys have any other questions, drop them in the comments. Go back, try to get them answered for you. But definitely make sure to go follow at Real Jeff Smith. Check out the Tactical Empire, and we will see you guys. Hey, this is Ky Logue. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I truly appreciate you. If you want more of this information and you want to see these actually recorded live, go ahead, join our Facebook group. It's the Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate. It's right on Facebook. Google it, you'll find it. Type it on Facebook, you'll find it. I look forward to seeing you guys in there. We give a ton of free information in there, a bunch of free trainings, free courses. You get all the scripts, contracts, everything you need, A to Z, absolutely free. And I look forward to seeing you on the group.